real? Several recent encounters suggest there might be more things in heaven and earth than we can dream of.
So are werewolves just a Hollywood creation, or do half-man, half-wolf creatures really exist? Now, tonight, we kick off our Conspiracy Theory Month series, which was
The legend of the vampire actually goes back for centuries, and it exists in some form or another in almost every culture. In fact, some people believe the first vampire story was in the Bible.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs. That's what I thought anyway. And then in recent years, it turns out that governments have been taking them seriously all along.
Try and clear up an ancient mystery with the help of a prominent veterinarian who says she can prove that Bigfoot exists and that he's related to all of us.
New reports, 5 pilots coming forward over the weekend saying they've had multiple mid-air encounters with high-flying, fast-moving objects.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to Season 4, Episode 4 of the hit underground paranormal radio show known as Celestial Oddities P.O.N.G, Pair of Normal Guys. I am your host, Frater Crow.
And I'm your co-host, Daniel James, and that's my co-host, Howard the Duck.
Yes, I'm Howard the Duck, folks, and we appreciate you tuning in tonight. The heading of the show is a little misleading because it does say that we are having Jamie and Jenny King on the line this evening, and we unfortunately have been spending the last half an hour trying to figure out what is going on technically for them. Never have had anybody have a trouble connecting onto the show, but for some reason when they're trying to connect, it's not giving them the option after filling everything out to do so. We spent about a half an hour troubleshooting it, and Daniel and I said, you know what, we got to call it. Let's jump on there. Let's talk to the folks out there listening a little bit about tonight's topic, which is Bigfoot, and go a little bit into that, answer any questions that you guys might have if you're out there. I'm sorry that we're running a half an hour behind. We might have lost a few of you because of that, but we'll give a short episode this evening, and we will do our best to get Jamie and Jenny back on the show later in the season, try to figure out what caused that issue for them, and if we can figure that out, then obviously get them back on the show. So if you are listening out there, feel free to leave us comments, questions, concerns in our comment section, and we will read those out and engage with you. We are back and happy to be here for another episode, episode 4. So far this season, we have talked about numerous things, one of that being Russian sleep experiments. We talked about, red flags and propaganda of alien, information and misinformation that's been given out, and much more. So if you've missed those episodes, make sure you jump back and check them out, and we'll go ahead and get started. So it's great to be back with you again, Daniel.
Yeah, brother, listen, I feel good. My internet is working tonight. I did some troubleshooting, some problem solving, and I'm grateful to say that I've got a good, strong internet connection tonight, but it wouldn't be Celestial Oddities without a fucking technical issue. So what I want to say is to Jamie and Jenny, thank you very much for trying to work it out. What I would say briefly about them is they're very sweet people. Frater and I both met Jamie in person at a convention some time ago. He's a very sweet guy. He's passionate about tonight's episode's topic. And if you'd like to connect with him, you still can. I know that he has a lot of resources. You can find him on social media. That's Jamie King. And Jamie, if you're listening, sorry we couldn't have you, partner, but anybody listening can check his work out, and tonight's topic will be more or less about the Sasquatch, the Yeti phenomenon.
And I want to, real quick, even though they're not on the show this evening, I would like to say that Jamie and Jenny King are the founders of Bigfoot Field Evidence Evaluation Team and Contact Meditations, a CE5 Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind Human Initiation Protocol. To give you a little bit of a background of who they are and what it is that they do, what we would have been talking about with them this evening, and we'll still dive a little bit into, and like Daniel said, if you guys are listening out there, we apologize it didn't work out for you this evening. We will get you back on the show if we can. And for those listening out there as fans, feel free to chime in with any questions you have containing the topic of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, anything involved with that alienistic ideas, and we will do our best to answer them and have a fun little short episode this evening.
That's right. So, listen, brother, if you want, I have a lot I could say on the topic. I know that we've talked about Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti phenomenon in the past, but we can lightly touch on it, and I do have a story to share tonight, a new story that I've actually never spoken about publicly about one of my encounters, and it leads me into something happening next month. So if you want, I can just Just tear it up, rip into
Tear it up, brother. You go in, and if I have any input on it, I'll certainly jump in.
All right, so check it out, guys. The Sasquatch, the Yeti, the Bigfoot. These are real creatures, real entities. They are a species that exists, okay? I understand that medical science and history doesn't have any sort of proof or evidence in the way that people need to say, like, okay, well, I'll believe it when I see it, or I only believe what, the news or the government tells me. But I can promise you guys the concept of the Sasquatch and the phenomenon, not only is it real, but it's actually highly suppressed by our leadership. It's highly suppressed by our government. And any evidence that we have that would be tangible that you could look at and say, okay, that is proof, evidence for me that these creatures walk the earth, they are among us, that's been scrubbed from the internet. It's legally not allowed to display on the History Channel or the Discovery Channel or the Sci-Fi Channel, on all those shows, all those monster and cryptid hunting shows that may or may not have evidence of cryptids and cryptozoology. They're legally not allowed to actually show you any evidence. Okay, there's a whole sort of theory as to why that is, but consciously speaking, humans aren't allowed to know that those types of beings exist and walk among us, because it would do something to our society. It would sort of change society in a way that would make it harder for people to control. So that's a whole nother topic that I'm not going to go into tonight, but I can promise you that these beings exist. I have had multiple encounters with them face to face. I've seen full-bodied Sasquatch. I've communicated with them verbally. I have audio recordings of them. A lot of what I have experienced is on my YouTube channel. So if you go to Daniel James XIX on YouTube, I do have an hour-long vlog about it with audio. But we're not going to relive all those conversations tonight, because we have talked about them on Celestial Oddities before. And tonight I'm going to share a new story of an encounter that I had, which ties into something that's happening earlier this coming month. So one resource that I want to give you guys is, you might know a lot of people like Jamie. You may have actually heard of Mike Patterson, he's a gentleman from Canada who has some of the most convincing, most exciting, tangible evidence of the existence of Sasquatch that you might be able to find on the internet. This particular person is somebody that I have spoken to personally, privately. I know Jamie has spoken to him privately. And we even have one of his pictures of a Sasquatch in the intro of our show. I actually got one of his pictures, and it's in the intro of our show, of an actual Bigfoot face. So I would check out his resources. He does have a really interesting YouTube channel. He has a Facebook page. He likes to communicate with people. He's very engaging. So I'd highly recommend checking him out. But here's one thing I want to tell you guys in terms of like research material, cutting edge information about the existence and some science behind these creatures, these beings, is I work with a ET contactee named Malgosia and her partner Robert, who's Spanish. They operate their YouTube channels where they have basically extraterrestrial contact with the Taigetan Pleiadians. This is an open contact that's been happening since about 2017. And over the years, I was just a fan of this YouTube channel because some of the information in terms of metaphysics, spirit science, consciousness, extraterrestrial, physics, everything that you could ever want to know about cosmic agency, both the Spanish and English channels put out some of the most fascinating content that I've ever heard of or seen before. Some of the most cutting edge information that you really just can't find anywhere else. And as being a fan for so long, I ended up becoming friends with Gosha, who's the host of the English and the Spanish channels. And she's a contactee of the Taigetan Pleiadians. Well, one day years ago, maybe going on like 2.5 years at this point, she put out a casting call for somebody to do some voiceovers for her YouTube channel. Well, I am an actor myself, and I'm also a voice actor. And so being a fan of her YouTube channel and her content, I just reached out to her and said, hey, I would love to audition. If you send me the script, I'll read whatever you want. And if you like it, you can use it. And so she sent me this huge documentary that was coming out during the COVID pandemic. And I got it. Like, I booked the gig. She liked me so much that I booked the gig. And so I did a documentary for her. And then she asked me if I wanted to start doing English translations translations from the Spanish content into her English YouTube channel for one of the ETs that they have conversations with. And so I did one character for her, and she liked it so much, she just said, hey, my partner Robert, who has his own YouTube channel, he doesn't speak much English, and all of his content's in Spanish, and I use a lot of our conversations that are in Spanish for my English channel. Would you just like to be the full-time voiceover guy for our channel? And I was like, fuck yeah, absolutely. I was like a fan already, so the fact that I could become, a partner with this ET contact, which is something that obviously, if you know anything about me, I'm very passionate about, being an extraterrestrial ambassador. So for about 2.5 years now, I've been the official male voiceover artist for this YouTube channel, which is Cosmic Agency. Now, I reached out to Gosha, who's a friend of mine now, last month, and I said, hey, listen, I think that a lot of people ask us about the phenomenon of Sasquatch, of the Bigfoot, of the Yeti, and it's something that the Taigetan Pleiadians have never issued any sort of information about, but I know that a lot of people have a demand to learn about it from the perspective of extraterrestrials. What is their description? What is their intelligence? What is their science on the phenomenon of that creature, right? So I said, why don't we do a cool, fun, like a Halloween, like a spooky Halloween episode that I can provide my personal encounters stories with the Sasquatch for the Cosmic Agency community, but we want to hear what the Taigetan Pleiadians have to say. So what I'm getting at with this whole story is, yes, I work with this group. I provide voiceovers for their channel, and we are putting out a special episode where we're going to be talking about the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the Yeti, from the perspective of the Taigetan Pleiadians. And I can promise you guys that some of the information they're going to tell us, we just don't have yet. We don't have it. You're never going to get this from the government. You're never going to get it on the news. A lot of private researchers that are in cryptozoology don't know this stuff yet. So I would highly suggest go to Cosmic Agency in the next couple days. At the time of this recording is October 26th, and we're going to have a video about them from the perspective of ET consciousness that's unfiltered by our news. It's unfiltered by our government. So it's going to be some pretty cutting edge information that I'm fascinated by. And then you'll also get a chance to hear a 20-minute summary of two of my personal face-to-face encounters will be on that video as well. So I would highly suggest you guys go to Cosmic Agency, where you're going to be given some cutting edge information about the species, about these creatures that's highly suppressed by our leadership and our government. So that was one thing that I wanted to sort of open this episode with, is that will be some new information that a lot of people don't have yet. I'm very excited to share that with you.
Oh, that is very exciting. It's funny that you said that, Daniel, because sometimes there's so much stuff going on, you forget to mention something to your friend that like, oh yeah, I wanted to tell you this and I forgot. Well, now it's one of those moments. So one time I was on YouTube, I don't know what I was watching. It had nothing to do with us. And all of a sudden this video came on, and I don't remember how the beginning went, but I'm listening. And then all of a sudden there's a voiceover that comes on, a man's talking, and that man is you. And I'm listening, and it was in the background. And like, I stopped for a second because I was watching.
Is that Dan?
Yeah, I was watching something completely different with paranormal or aliens or something, and all of a sudden this video just comes on, and I had it in the background, so I didn't care. I was just doing what I was doing, and then it was like, hi, today I would like to talk to you. And it was like this voice, and I'm like, that sounds like Dan. And as I listened from it, I'm like, that is Dan. And I went over and clicked on it, it wasn't your YouTube. And I'm like, huh. And I was always going to mention that to you and ask you about it, and then I just forgot. So that's really funny you bring that up. Yeah, that was you. That was probably about a year ago. So
let me tell you this one more thing about Cosmic Agency, and then I'm going to move on to a special story that I've never told anybody before.
Please do.
Okay. Cosmic Agency is Robert and Gosha. That's two different channels. And we're dealing with the Taigetan Pleiadians here, having direct open contact. And Gosha, the popularity of her channel blew up so big that it started to reach like mainstream awareness. And she was approached a couple of years ago by Gaia TV. I think that's what it's still called. And a lot of people don't resonate with that network anymore, rightfully so. There's a lot of reasons why. I think Gaia TV sort of took a turn. But she was approached years ago, and she was asked to actually distribute her content and do like a season of information for that network. And she did agree to do it. And she worked out a deal to give them one season that they produced. that was basically an introduction to the Taiget and Pleiadians, an introduction to their open contact protocol that was happening from 2017. And that's where she sort of reached like more of a mainstream awareness. Was she did reach the Gaia TV network, and she did one season with them, and then ended it and moved on with her life and went back to managing her own YouTube channels, because she has 2 of them. But it did reach sort of like a mainstream awareness when it hit Gaia TV, and I'm trying to think of what year that was. I think it was 2021 that she distributed that season on that network and then moved on from it. But yeah, it's grown up. It's blown up to be like really wide scale, really sort of accepted sort of contact information in terms of extraterrestrial ambassadorship. So if anybody has Gaia TV, I think that you can watch season 1 of Cosmic Agency on there, but I would just recommend going to her YouTube for the best content. So here's a little story I want to share tonight, appropriate to the theme. And once again, I gotta shamelessly plug our documentary. If you guys have ever seen the documentary that myself, Lauren, Frater, and my friend Caroline produced, which was the Bermuda Triangle of Pennsylvania, very sweet, lighthearted documentary on the concept of cryptozoology and investigating the unknown. We visited a couple spots for this documentary, and my friend in it, Caroline, she is a friend of mine that is very passionate about the concept of extraterrestrials. She's very, very, very passionate about cryptozoology and even, researching the paranormal in terms of more of the cryptid side. So if you're interested in learning about her, you can check out our documentary. But what I'm going to tell you guys here is a little story about what her and I do and what we have planned. So in addition to producing that documentary together, which is still free to watch on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. I fucking love that thing so much. So one of the things that her and I bonded over was the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the Yeti, extraterrestrials, aliens, cryptozoology. And so her and I have actually gone on investigations together multiple times, several times leading up to the production of that documentary, and also after it. After we shot that documentary, we still have gone on private investigations together, both her, and Lauren, or maybe just me and her by ourselves. And one place that we really like to go is West Virginia. So if you're into cryptozoology, you know about cryptids, you know that West Virginia is a hot spot for a variety of different cryptid species. Everything from the dogmen to wendigos. There is a community of like troll, sort of like goblins out there, Sasquatch, multiple Sasquatch sightings, a lot of UFO stuff out in West Virginia, because I'm 20 minutes from the border of West Virginia where I live. Yeah. And so it's just a hot spot for that type of activity. So I forget the year, but there was a time where me, Caroline, and Lauren, we hooked up and we said, hey, let's do an investigation of West Virginia. Let's book a couple days at hotels, Airbnbs, whatever we can find that's kind of a little bit more, immersed into the deeper, more remote parts of West Virginia, not so, so much like the city or commercial areas. And let's sort of see what happens. Let's go on some hikes. Let's do some night investigations together without any technology or equipment and just see what happens. And we stumbled across this small hotel called the Brazen Head Inn.
Okay.
At the time, it's deep in West Virginia. It's kind of close to a ski resort. And at the time, it was owned by a very sweet couple, Will and Jill, who no longer own the inn. They sold it and retired. But at the time, it was a small, quiet, sleepy little inn right on a beautiful creek that was pretty deep into like the fucking middle of nowhere. Like you had to drive 45 minutes to get to a restaurant.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was pretty remote. There was nowhere to eat around there without like driving 25, 30 minutes. And so we booked a night there. And Caroline and I, we decided to do an investigation where we drove. It was getting late. It was raining that night. And we drove into the mountains. We already were in the mountains, but we drove into the mountains. We found somewhere dark to pull off, got out of the car. It's pouring down rain, and we get out, and we're in the middle of nowhere, just her and I, and we're standing on the edge of this tree line, and we're doing like some meditations. Her and I are big into meditation. We're big into metaphysics. We're big into channeling. So we know that when you alter your consciousness a little bit or you raise your vibrational frequency, you could possibly be in a more conducive state to have an encounter with something like a cryptid or an entity from another dimension or density, or extraterrestrials, because oftentimes their baseline oscillating vibrational frequency is different than that of the 3D human. So if you change your perception and your frequency, you're closer to them, you can have encounters. So we went out and we meditated. And to my shock and amazement, her and I had some like profound emotional releases together as friends, but we didn't have any paranormal encounter. We didn't hear any voices in the woods. One of the things that happens to me when I'm around Sasquatch Bigfoots is they throw things from the woods. They throw sticks, they throw rocks at me. They knock sticks together. They knock sticks and branches on trees. I was doing a contact protocol that I do when I'm investigating for Sasquatch, which is a special clapping pattern that I do actually with my hands and my mouth. And I was doing that and just getting nothing back. Like we had no contact whatsoever. And we're out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's totally sensory deprivation. You know, no cell service, completely dark. Nothing happened, but we had some really cool emotional bonding moments between her and I as friends, but no contact, right? So we decided to call it because I left sweet fucking Lauren back at this creepy, this haunted hotel. That's a whole nother topic, that the hotel was actually haunted, heavily haunted by spirit, but that's another topic. I left her there by herself for like an hour and a half. So we decided to go home, right? So we go home and Caroline goes inside and I decide to go on the back porch by myself and just do one more light meditation in the dark. I mean, total fucking void. I'm sitting on this back porch and you're looking into just black because it's so dark. There's no contamination from like lights from cities, no porch lights, and all you can hear is this creek that's out back. And it felt like very peaceful. And also like a little, I know you're into this shit, Frater, but like I'm not that deep like you are. It almost felt like a little unnerving because it was like, you're in that void of like total separation between you and nothingness when you're sensory deprived like that. It was so black out there.
Yeah.
All you could hear was the crickets. Like you start to hallucinate and shit. So like I meditated one more time, just gave my piece to like nature, to Mother Earth Gaia, to the land, and I went inside. So I go back upstairs and I usually bring an audio recorder with me because I like to sort of see if I can capture anything on sound. Because as you know, sometimes certain sounds can come through an audio equipment that your naked eyes or your ears won't hear. And what I like to do is I put my recorders on the inside of a window, on the inside of the screen, facing outside, and just let it roll all night. Make sure the batteries are charged, and I'll let it record for 8 hours. So I set up an audio recorder, and I lay down, and I'm getting ready to go to sleep. Lauren passes out. Caroline's asleep too. And I'm sleeping right next to the open window of the Brazen Head Inn that's totally fucking cut off. There's nobody there. Just Will and Jill, who are elderly. They're fast asleep, and there's nobody else staying in this hotel. As I'm laying in bed going to sleep, now this is the story I've never told anybody. I hear a telltale Sasquatch sign of a knock. Okay? This isn't your deer walking through the backyard. It's not little Timmy, the neighbor down the road at 3 a.m. fucking around. It's a knock on something. It's a hard, solid object hitting a hard, solid object. I hear that. And I says, motherfucker, no shit. Me and Caroline go out in the middle of nowhere in the rain. We do a contact protocol that I have a lot of success with. Nothing happens. I get home. Caroline goes to sleep. Lauren goes to sleep. Sure enough, I'm hearing something outside that's telltale signs. So I'm awake. My audio recorder's going. And I wait and I'm listening. I hear another knock. And I'm like, okay, I see you. I like where this is going. So I shake Lauren, go to wake her up. She's out. I can't wake her up. I'm like, okay, so this is me. I'm in this alone. So I stay awake and I'm dog tired, mind you. I'm very, very tired. It's like 3 in the morning at this point. And I'm like, okay, so I'm laying awake and I'm listening. And then I hear heavy, heavy footsteps run through the yard facing my window. I look through the window and it's pitch fucking black, dude. No porch lights, no lights, nothing, no street lights, nothing spilling on the yard so that I can see. It would have been one of those things where it's like if I took my cell phone, turned the flashlight on, and aimed it out the window, you'd have no visibility. It was totally sensory deprived. But I hear these heavy, heavy weighted footsteps, which I've heard multiple times in my previous encounters with Sasquatch face to face. Sometimes they will actually run. They will like physically run. And it didn't exactly sound like 4 footsteps. It sounded kind of like more of like a do 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 do, like, like a hobble. And I'm like, okay, something's out there getting my awareness, getting my attention. The characteristics, the telltale signs of its knocking and the running around were characteristic of Sasquatch because I've already had multiple encounters in the past, and that was something that I noticed was happening on a regular basis whenever I've met them face to face. So now Caroline's asleep, Lauren's asleep, and I heard the running by, I heard the knocking, and what I really wanted to do was I wanted to get out of bed, and I wanted to open the door and go out on the back porch again where I was meditating previously, which I feel like probably attracted them. Going out there by myself, in a sense, is almost like an offering. It's a vulnerable. I left my phone inside. I didn't want to have any technology on me because that's a sign of that's like a act of respect. I think that they're fucking smart. I think that they know better. I think that if you go out there with your phone and be like, "Ooh, Bigfoot, I'm gonna get you," they're like, "Fuck you." So I just leave my shit. I think that going out there, meditating, and giving an offering of my energy and my peace, feeling a lot of gratitude in the moment without my phone, possibly attracted the presence of something. And then we freed up all that resistance by sort of letting go of it and going to bed. That I know in my heart of hearts, there was one of those entities out there. And the running practically, realistically, tangibly could be deduced as anything. Could have been a bear, could have been a mountain lion. We have a lot of wildlife out there in West Virginia, big game, heavy animals out there. It's common. They even have like black panthers and shit. So it could have been anything, but the knocking. Okay, nothing does that like a succinct
very
knock,
prominent
like two
knock,
rocks together, like clack. Mind you, it's like 2:33 in the morning. He did it twice. Okay. So here's the last thing I'm going to say. I did not go out on the porch. Lauren was one of the reasons why Lauren was uncomfortable with Caroline and I going out by ourselves was because there is a big game cat community out there, and they can be violent, they can be dangerous, and they've been known to attack people. And Lauren didn't want to go out where there are cat sightings, especially at night, and she didn't want me and Caroline to go. So I wasn't going to go outside on the porch by myself without any proof or evidence of what it was out there that is, making contact with me, trying to get my attention, and upset her any further, especially when she was asleep. I just didn't want to do that. And so I didn't go outside. But the last thing I'm going to say is, as I'm falling asleep, I start to hear knocking on the roof of the hotel.
Okay.
Now, this is a small hotel. When I say hotel, don't think Motel 6. Don't think Super 8. Don't think anything like that. I'm talking like a mom and pop, small, handmade brick and mortar hotel that's got like 15 rooms. It's 2 stories. It's all made out of wood, handmade hotel, very small. And even as a 2-story building, it's not very high. And the roof was flat. It had like a small arc, but the pitch wasn't much. And there was 3 knocks on the roof of the fucking building above our room.
That's awesome.
Okay. So I wait a second and I'm like, no shit. So now I'm at the point now where I'm so tired I can't stay awake anymore. And I fall asleep. So I wake up in the morning and I shit you not, Caroline, heard the fucking knocking on the ceiling. Her and I both heard it. She was in the bedroom. We had the hotel was laid out where there was a queen size bed downstairs, and then there was a loft bed in the same room up like a little ladder. But excuse me, but it was like still exposed to her and I, and like we could like talk through it and stuff. Like it's all in the same room. And she was close to the ceiling, and she heard the knocks that night. And on my audio recorder that ran for about 7 hours, I got the running through the yard.
Okay.
I got the clacking with the rocks together, and I got the 3 knocks on the roof of the hotel
That's awesome.
on my audio recorder. And that was sound that I never posted because I gave it to Caroline and I said, if you want to use this, you can use this. And she put it on her YouTube channel.
Gotcha.
I didn't. And she was getting into like, sort of cryptid research and trying to get into cryptozoology more. And so I let her have, that audio that I recorded that she could use if she wanted to. And so she uploaded that to her channel. And that's a story that I never shared. Obviously, it doesn't sound like much, but when you're an experiencer, and this would be now the 4th time I'd have, definitive open contact with the Sasquatch, with the Bigfoot species, you notice patterns like the knocking and the running, and it sounds like something that weighs fucking 600 pounds on the grass outside. You know that it isn't a person. You know it's not a deer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so it's like,
they're not going to make those sounds. Yeah, I mean, knocking
it's
is
like
going to be very
doo-doo.
specific type of creatures that can do that, and then
It's
you narrow it
intelligent.
down from there. It's an intelligent creature. Yeah.
So that is a story I never shared, and it leads me into this point. Caroline, being a very close personal friend of mine and Lauren's, her and her partner are on the way, and we are doing our annual West Virginia trip. And as I mentioned, our friends Will and Jill from the Brazen Head Inn, they've actually become personal friends of ours. And they live in West Virginia. They have a beautiful house, and we keep in touch. And now we actually go visit them, the owners of that hotel.
Oh, awesome.
And so, right here at the beginning of November, Caroline and her partner are coming up to meet me and Lauren, and we're going to West Virginia together. Deep, deep, deep into the woods to an Airbnb that we rent. That's like, it's so far into the mountains that it's what's called as like a wireless free zone.
Okay.
Like there isn't even any like cell service. There's no 5G. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a zone that doesn't have very much electromagnetic wireless frequency. And there's an Airbnb that we rent now deep into the woods that's on like, so many acres of property. And it's very private and secluded. There's a lot of hiking. There's a running river. There's mountains. There's camping areas. And we're going for 3 days to do another investigation.
Oh, that's
And she's bringing her partner who's never gone, cryptid hunting, I like to call it just for fun. She's never gone cryptid hunting. And although Caroline is a believer and she's spiritually open to contact, she's never had a Sasquatch contact. And me and Lauren have had several. And I've had several over the years. And so it doesn't matter how long it takes or how many times we try or how many different forests we walk through. Caroline is very open and dedicated to having her own personal experience and her own personal encounter. And I keep bringing her out with me in the effort that these creatures will make contact for her sake so that she can be in their presence and experience their energy. Because one thing I'll say is we sort of maybe get close to the end of like a shorter episode tonight. When you are in the presence of these beings, it is unlike anything that I have ever felt. It's not exactly a fear, but it's almost like a type of cognitive dissonance. And when you're standing in their presence, which I've done, several times now, your body vibrates. Your body starts to vibrate, and it's almost like you go numb. And I don't want to say that it's a fear, but when your brain goes through this realization of you are in the presence of something that you do not have scientific evidence exists, and medical science and history and the government will not tell you exists, but so many millions of people like Jamie, like Mike, like Mike has experienced, that your brain and your body goes through like this frequency dissonance where it's almost like it almost feels like out of body. I don't know if you've ever felt
Oh,
like what I'm
absolutely.
talking about, Frater. Like I'm sure you have in your meditations and your channelings and your work. It's almost like you feel like you're astral projecting or like you're remote viewing or like you're almost out of your body a little bit. And I think it's a frequency dissonance because when you're in their presence, just because these beings seem scientifically or technologically more primitive to humans, I can promise you spiritually and in terms of consciousness, they absolutely are not. If anything, for the sake of this conversation, I think that they're more spiritually advanced than humans. I think they're of a higher vibrational frequency. I think they exist in other densities and dimensions of frequency, in which that's why humans don't oftentimes see or hear them unless
Right.
they want to be perceived, right? They're
Yep.
in their own realm. Um, and when you're in their presence, it's like an out of body experience. I truly feel like reality, like the matrix is breaking. And it's like a knowingness that you can't put into words, and I'm very passionate about it. It's almost like a fucking high. It's almost like addicting to feel the feeling of knowing that you're in the presence of something that is bigger than your understanding of science, medical science as we know it. And I can promise you guys they exist. They are real. I have met them several times. I will meet them again. I even have a gift, an offering from them that they actually gave me, which I've talked about on the show before. I mention it, and you can see it on my YouTube channel. But they gave me a piece of burnt wood one time that they left me um, buried deep into the soil where I was leaving them food every night. So it's like a wood chip. I go into this whole speech about how I believe it's a type of nature technology they gave me. So they're very advanced spiritually and consciously. Don't underestimate them just because that they seem primitive, but they have a language, they have culture, they have communities, they have families. And I can tell you, I could just promise you that they exist. And check out this Cosmic Agency video when it comes out here in the next couple days. Should be some cutting edge information. And although I don't like to project anything into the future and I don't like to assign too much meaning or insistency on particular outcomes, but we are going on an investigation here in the first week of November. And I look forward to, Caroline, my friend, my partner Lauren, and her partner, to going out to West Virginia to seeing what happens. If anything does happen, what I will do is I will go to the Celestial Oddities Facebook group, where you guys can interact with us and engage with us, and I will share any sort of encounters that we might have. We might not. You just never know, but we're going out there to see what happens.
You sit out there long enough, brother, you will. I mean, that's the thing, is if you seek, you will find. And as you said, it is a certain type of feeling whenever you come into contact with things that are just unexplained, or that very much is real, but most of the world doesn't believe or doesn't understand. And I mean, as you mentioned, being in their presence, bridging that gap is very big part of my life and what I do. And I mean, whether it's going out and doing, paranormal research at haunted locations, or it be ritual and summoning spirits, I mean, all of them, it's very profound, because whenever
Yes.
you were able to do a certain, and I will call it scientific, even though regular science doesn't notice it, when you use a specific formula
Mhm.
and you do certain movements, certain vibrations of your voice, certain colors are
Spirit
used, certain
science.
spirit science, exactly. When you use it in a certain formula, and time again, you can cause change in the atmosphere around you, and you can bring something visually, audibly, sensatorily to your ritual chamber, and it's there, and experience it, communicate, talk with it, and learn from it. It is exhilarating. It is life changing. It's something that you always want more and more of. It is something that's addicting, because you have now tapped into the unknown. You've tapped into a very small, doorway that most never breach past. And
Right.
whether that be spirits, whether that be cryptids, that is there. And, it's always profound, even if it's something as small as a knock. If you know in your heart of hearts that, hey, there's something out in the woods right now communicating with me and knocking with me, that's a hell of a feeling, where you're like, all right, something's out there talking to me right now, and I have no idea what, and I want to. So I wish you luck on the upcoming adventure. We just got back from that Friday and Saturday investigation on the other side of Ohio. Profound contact with spirit. It was one of the best outings we've had in quite a while, where we were able to come into contact with a small boy, or a younger boy, I should say, that was murdered. And for the longest time, they were saying that, and this happened in like early to mid 1900s, and they were saying that there was either a suicide or an accident that happened in this building where a child was killed. It was an orphanage at one point in time. We found through our research very, very in depth that it was actually a murder where one of the children killed the other child by pushing him down the stairs. And then the caretaker of the orphanage helped cover it up. Now, these are simply, folks, just our research. I'm not saying that this is actual fact, but I'm saying to us it seems to be actual fact. We had an entire jam-packed weekend of time and time again profound contact with the spirits there, and able to really get a whole outline of events that have happened, names, where the individual who pushed this child, who's now an older adult, where he lives right now in the country, names according to that. So when you really start to dig into this, guys, you will be able to breach further and further into the veil. It just takes getting out there. It takes sincerity. It takes honesty and dedication. But the more and more you put yourself out there, the more and more you will connect to that stream, and the more things will connect with you. But as Daniel said, a big important part of that is, my team is prime example. We don't try to really film it. Every once in a while I'll film something, but I don't film my outings. I do very little even audio, which I do love audio recordings. I love getting EVPs and things, but I don't use a whole lot of regular techie equipment anymore.
Right.
I like to go out there and just sit with certain people and connect with the spirits that are there and have mind-altering, life-changing experiences that don't need to be shown to anybody else because they're really for us. It's a personal thing. And sometimes we're able to get clarity and comfort to beings that have passed and help them get answers, or us to get answers of what happened so that their stories can be told. And that's the most important thing. It's not about those likes or clicks or shares. It's about, those special moments. Natasha actually just left a comment. She was there over the weekend.
Hey, girl. Hey.
And it says, all we have is my notes. And that's really it. I mean, all we have is her notes. And we have maybe an hour of audio total that I do have to listen through. And I'll be doing that this weekend. That's the only evidence. In a 40-hour time period of being there, we have 2 pages of a notebook. And we have an hour of audio that I have to go through. But as far as the dowsing rod sessions, as far as multiple divination sessions and scrying sessions, profound in contact. So, get out there,
And that's
guys.
valid.
It's very
valid contact.
Well, and it was Dan, and this was one that was pretty wild. Doing readings where we, tarot was only part of what we did throughout the weekend, but pulling the same cards 15 times. It's impossible to have that happen unless there's spiritual hands involved into that. As she just put it, it really was incredible. I mean, I go on a lot of outings. This was a truly special one. But I believe that, as you said, is because we're not trying to capture them, whereas every other team is. And we were also a very small group on this one, where there's not a ton of you. So when there's only 3 or 4 people, 4 in this case, you're going to have a lot better outings than you're going to have with 7 people, 8 people.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer in doing a lot of things by myself or with one other person. And the reason that is I can guarantee you guys, if you go out in the woods at night by yourself, 100% alone, as Dan said, no phone, no gun, no car nearby, no friends, no nothing. You were just 100% alone. I don't do so much of that anymore. But if I would, I used to hike into the woods 3-4 miles into the woods by myself, nothing around, and then sit and just talk out loud. And the wildest shit would happen.
Yes.
Because they know you were 100% alone. If you ran for your life, you wouldn't make it because it's a 3-mile run to the nearest thing. So they know that you're willing to take on the fear, take on the danger, and put yourself fully out there to connect with them. And as Dan said, these spirits know that, these entities, these beings know that. And a lot of times they will then say, okay, let's connect. Because what do they have to lose? Even if they were to step right out from behind a tree 5 feet away and show you, and then vanish shortly afterwards, you have no way of showing the rest of the world except your story. And if people are going to believe you, maybe, but a lot of people are going to think you're crazy, probably. But that's why they do it, because, hey, why not show ourselves? We don't have to worry about a group of people coming and trying to hunt us down or capture us for science experiments. There's no evidence. There's only this guy's firsthand experience, which it could just be another story that someone tells, you know? So get out there, guys. Enjoy yourselves, especially this time of year. We're around Samhain, as we talked about recently. We're around the thinning of the veil. This time of year is beautiful for contact of all types of different creatures and entities. So go out there, have fun, be sincere. Thank you for tuning into tonight's episode. As we said, it didn't end up being the guest that we planned to have on. So Daniel and I just kind of shot the breeze a little bit, as we like to do. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Share it around. Jump into the Celestial Oddities Paranormal Guys, group page. See Daniel's exploits of what he does over the next few days, or next week or so, as he goes on this trip. And leave us any comments or concerns, anything you would like to see us do, any topics you would like to see us cover, other guests you'd like to see us have on. We'll try to get Jamie and Jenny back on a little bit later this season.
There it is.
There it is, guys. Well, we love you. Much love to you. Enjoy your holiday season this weekend.
Happy Halloween.
Next week. Happy Halloween. Happy Samhain. And we will catch you next time on Celestial Oddities Paranormal Guys. Catch you later. Have a good one.